what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Women Atheist UNLOAD. It's been a minute since I've been here, but we are here, and I am not alone. I am with my good friend and also leader and founder of president of the Black Non-Believers, Miss Mandisa Thomas. Hey, Mandisa, how are you today?
What is going on, Cynthia? And hello, everyone who is tuned in. I saw a few people in the chat before the show started. Thank y'all so much for the shout outs. I missed being here. You know, as now being a part of Black Non-Believers and a part of our leadership now, for those of you who don't know, Cynthia is now the affiliate leader for our newly revived Chicago affiliate that we got started in January. So, there have been things going on.
Yes, there have been things going on, but but I love the things that are going on now, especially since we revived Chicago. We have a steady membership of Chicago folks that are coming out to the meetups. I know Detroit was revised. We also put on a new affiliate in Philadelphia, and we still got Charlotte chugging along, and
Atlanta.
And of course Atlanta. We can't forget Atlanta.
And it's been hot here too. It is really, really hot.
It was so funny. I saw I don't know if it was a TikTok or a Facebook reel where it was this guy who was like getting into his car and he had leather seats, and he all of a sudden started to do that long note that Eddie Kane did in the 5 Heartbeats. If there are heart in the house tonight, he's like, oh. He's like, and I think the caption was like, how hot it is in Atlanta right now.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, man, shout out to everybody in Atlanta that got hot leather seats in their car.
Like me, like I do.
Oh sis.
Yes.
Jesus.
I know exactly what he's feeling. I knew exactly what he felt.
Oh gosh, I know. But when he did that, especially when he was like slowly sliding out of the car into the ground.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, I feel that. I mean, we've been lucky, knock on wood. It's like about 80 right now here in Chicago.
Okay.
So we haven't had horrible, like stupid hot weather, even though we can get there, but we haven't had that yet, which is a good thing because I melt. So,
well, if you had been at the counter protests where I had been along with Tina, who is over our Charlotte affiliate, she was here with a group called We Engage, and she was also representing Battle, the Black Abortion Defense League. If you had been here over the past couple of days, let me tell you, I have a serious tan and I haven't been to the beach because even standing out there for a few hours in that hot sun, it was like, oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
It was super hot.
That's a great segue for what we're talking about today. Because I definitely wanted you to talk about your experience on the front line doing defender work for an abortion clinic that's in Atlanta that got accosted by evangelicals, Christian nationalists, white evangelical nationalists, actually, from what I could see as far as like the videos and the photos that you guys posted that were like prophesying to folks as they were coming into the clinic, trying to win them to Christ, but at the same time just beating them down with the Bible. And and all that stuff. So if everybody, shout out to everybody that's in the chat. What's up, Beck? What's up, Crystal? What's up, Carol? Hey, Kat. Hey, Stephanie. It's great to see all you on. Everybody that's watching, thank you for tuning in. And today we are talking about misogyny, but our subtext is 304 culture. Now, for those of you all who don't know what 304 is, like myself, I just found this out like literally 2 weeks ago. That 304 was the pager code because like 304, once you like turn around backwards, it spells hoe. You know, I personally like to spell hoe as HEAUX because that gives it class. You know,
Right.
you know, I'm a hoe about mine, right?
I'm a classy hoe, and all my hoes is classy.
Oh,
Many of you who remember Harlem Nights.
yes. Yes, yes. Shout out to Della Reese with her classy hoes and her best hoe, Sunshine, because when you throw her stuff up in the air, turn into sunshine.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness. But yeah, so recently there has been hullabaloo in the interwebs that made me really wanted to do a show about this, and definitely wanted to ask my good girlfriend Mandisa to join in to talk about, you know, whole culture, how it's been interpreted, the misogyny that actually comes from outside looking in, and also just like how the look of, you know, women's especially that are just trying to live their best lives and still being slut shamed and slandered for being who they are because they're not following this particular um, uh, edict or rule set that so-called society has set for us that we need to follow in order for us to be a good, chaste woman, worthy to be picked.
Exactly. Oh my god. Right. Right.
So, right. So, for you all who don't know, like what really sparked this is that there is a singer slash actress slash influencer slash everything in Hollywood. I'm pretty sure you all have heard of Kiki Palmer. And she first, like a lot of us knew her from one of her debut movies when she was a kid called Aquila and the
Keela
Bee.
and the Bee, yes.
Yes, enjoyed that movie very much because I did not know that dis was in the dictionary, but it actually happened to be in there. And she played that movie part very, very well. And she has a very bubbly, outgoing personality. Well, she recently had a baby. I believe that she had a little baby boy in February, and she is about 4 months postpartum. And let me tell you guys, I am yellows, yellows, because the snatchback on Sister Girlfriend is real. Okay, one of the things that she said that she never had was breast and booty, but after she had this baby, she got both, and she got it in the right places. Like the curves are
The
sitting well.
ratio is popping.
Yes. I was like, work. I'm not mad at you, girl. I'm not
Yes.
mad. And you know, and people have taken notice, and including her. And recently, she did a trip to Vegas to see the singer Usher Raymond in concert. He came up to her and sang his one of his hit songs, "There Goes My Baby," and they happened to share a hug and they swayed and danced a little bit. She sang along with him, and you know, and then she started to kind of like pose to show off her curvy body in this dress that was a it was a black see-through dress, bodycon dress, and she had a bodysuit under it, and she had the booty cheeks out. Okay, but it was kind of covered, but it was sheer. But she looks, y'all.
She looks great. She looks great.
She
She
looks
looks
great.
amazing.
She looks great. I was like, Maybe I did. Maybe that's what I need to do, Mandisa. Just pop out a kid, and then maybe my body will do that. I don't know.
Well, that doesn't work equally for all of us.
Yeah,
But,
that's right. Yeah, if I did that, I see the opposite happening. But regardless of that. Well, anywho, the story goes on, guys. So what ended up happening is that she was videoed dancing with Usher as he was singing with her, and her baby daddy happened to peep the exchange between them, and he was not pleased, guys. He was not pleased at all, because sister girlfriend was looking good. He was at home, I guess, with the baby, and she was with her girlfriends at Vegas, and I'm pretty sure that he knew, but he was saying that it's the outfit for him. How dare you dress like that? I am a person of morals and standards, and how you going to wear that? You're a mom, and blah 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 blah. But the crazy thing about it, which really is the egregious part and where the misogyny comes in, is that he decided, well, first off, doing that, first off, just accosting her because of what she had on. But secondly, he decided to do that on Twitter.
That's the awful part right there. I
mean, man, on
the rest of that is bad enough.
Yes, the rest of it is accosting her for what she had on, and telling, and basically, chastising her and trying to gatekeep what she has on and how she looks and things of that nature. And she's not Aquila from the Aquila and the Bee anymore. She's as we say, a grown ass woman. And so she makes her own money. Last time I think I checked, her net worth is like $7.5 million. And so she's doing pretty decent for herself. And if she is making her own money, and she is paying the bills and doing all this other stuff. I heard that he was doing pretty well too as he's a fitness instructor and personal trainer, and so he's doing well, but not as well as her. But that's neither here nor there. Just the respect for me, or the disrespect that comes in, whether if he was making more money than her or less money than her, or nothing at all, or if she was making nothing at all. It does not condone the behavior that came from him, specifically trying to gatekeep what she has on and how she is presenting herself. And I don't know, Mandisa, you can tell me, because I'm like a mom adjacent. I'm a mom by default. That's the best way that I can put it, because I didn't physically have a child, but I am helping to raise one. And I'm like, so how is a mom supposed to dress? How's a mom supposed to present herself to the world? I mean, you a mom?
Yeah.
Tell me. School me, please.
So to just back up just a moment, there were, of course, folks who looked at his social media and how he was posting very risque pictures of Kiki and himself,
right,
on social media,
mm-hmm.
But this also speaks to this idea of possession, that she is a possession,
right,
to him, which of course drives me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And being a mother, and being, also being a wife, right? That is just, I had to come to the, conclusion that, hey, women, whether you're a mother or not, can dress how the hell you want to dress for certain. But now, everything isn't for every occasion, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a good idea to show up to your kid's graduation,
right?
In something that you would wear to a Usher concert, right?
Sure.
Now, yeah. I don't think that's absolutely necessary. I think it would distract from the accomplishments of the kids.
Sure.
However, if people still want to wear that, who am I to judge? Right. I mean, we might look at it and be like, I don't think that's appropriate, right? For this occasion.
Yeah.
But it's an awful thing when women become moms, that we become these things. We're no longer people. We're these machines that are supposed to take care of the kids, take care of the spouse, take care of everything around us, and but except ourselves.
Right.
We're not supposed to think about ourselves at all.
That's insane.
And the one thing that I had to learn was that even though my life changed forever when I had children, I had to understand that my life does not revolve entirely around my children,
Right.
especially when they grow up. You know, my daughter is in Chicago.
Right.
You know, she's 25. She's living her best life. She and her girlfriend are cat ladies. They're living together. They are just doing. Now, the thing is, my phrase is, if you're parenting right, your children won't be as dependent on you.
Right.
You know, like if you're doing it in a responsible way.
Sure.
But once they grow up, then what does that mean for you? You know, there are a lot of women who have had children. They still look good. And you know, of course, there's always supposed to be a shelf life for women, right? There's always supposed to be a shelf life for how good we look when we're younger.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to grow into good looking older women.
No, your life is done at 30.
Your life is supposed to be like, once you have children, your life is supposed to be done.
Oh, right, right.
That's it, right? But there are women like us, like myself, who realize that as we raise our children, we still have ambitions, we still have goals,
right?
And there's nothing wrong with us feeling good about ourselves outside of our families, outside of our children. And they don't have to define us in every way, because guess what? At some point, children will define themselves, just like we had to define ourselves outside of our parents.
Exactly.
Even if we are still close to them, we all still have our own identities that are independent from each other, and there is nothing wrong with that. Especially even if the child is young, and especially for an actress and a public figure like Keke Palmer, who, if she looks absolutely amazing, and she does, right? I had to come to and going into, you know, like sort of like going into 304 culture, right? You know, we've been conditioned to not compliment women on our bodies and how we look, or, you know, we just, you know, or we might just look and be like, oh, she looks stank. But no. Even if you didn't have like the perfect body for it, if you look decent in what you're wearing and it's revealing, so what? So what? It doesn't matter how many kids I have. Am I raising them properly? Are they being provided for? Are they being cared for?
Right.
They have all of the necessities. Are they being raised in a way that they are becoming productive citizens? And that is still a baby.
Yeah.
That baby ain't going to see. I mean, even if that child grew up to see her wearing that outfit, hopefully the environment is healthy enough where the child could say, you know, my mom looked good in that.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you know, children, you know, they might be like, oh, mom, like, don't embarrass me. But you know what? Hey, that's the nature of kids.
Yeah. I would think, like, if like my mom showed up to my school and what Keke Palmer had, and I'm about to do my school play, I'd be like, Mom, right?
Absolutely.
But you know, but at the same time, it's Vegas. Like, you know, it's Vegas.
That
like,
was the right environment for it.
And like Vegas like calls for you to dress like a hoe. Like, I remember going to Vegas a few years ago, and that's when I was more snatched. And I was like, okay, so what's the most scandalous, skimpiest thing that I can wear that I can get away with because I'm in Vegas? And damn it, that's what I packed because I'm in Vegas.
There is an occasion for everything, Vegas.
Exactly.
And you're at an Usher concert.
Yeah.
You are at a show enjoying yourself. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's not. And you know what really kind of like made it over the top for me is some of the comments that I would, read on social media from men who happen to, observe the whole back. It really wasn't a back and forth because Kiki said nothing. It was mostly just him, and basically her fans just basically read him the riot act.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like
As
I
they
think
should
as they should have. I was just like, but it was one photograph that he posted of himself sitting on the edge of a bed just in his underwear, and his chest and everything was out.
have.
And I think that somebody commented on it like, how dare you wear that in front of
Yeah.
millions of people? You're a dad.
Right. Right.
And but
You're not setting a good example for the kids.
no, how dare you? You must, I thought you had standards and morals, all this other mess. But I was like really like tripping specifically when I was like reading how like some of these other guys is like also like co-signing on the baby daddy. And I'm saying baby daddy, guys. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but that's literally what he is. Like
Mhm.
he's her boyfriend. He happens to be the father of her child. They're not married. And there you go. So, and I know that like he would throw out the word wife and things of that nature, but at last time I checked, they have not done the full thing. So at this particular juncture, she is a Beyonce song. All the single ladies, now put your hands up. So but they were really just like saying and calling her a hoe, started to actually, I remember one guy was like insinuating that her and Usher had something going on, and there's also innuendo concerning Usher's possession of an STI and all this other, and to me that's just even just like doubling and tripling down on patriarchy
Right.
and misogyny, to the point where not only you're shaming her, but you're shaming Usher, who did nothing but sing a song to the girl and just dance with her a bit.
That's it. Yeah.
And I mean like and when I was like asking one guy who was like insinuating that they were having sex, I said, do you have any evidence to corroborate this? None.
No.
It's going strictly on what it looks like. And I mean, and my whole thing is this: even if they were, as long as like every person who is within this relationship is actually consenting adults, and they are informed consent, right?
Yes.
It's really none of our business on who is doing what and with whom. And it's definitely, and I understand that in the realm of social media, that this is basically a court of public opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And people are going to share their opinion anytime that they want to, whether it's solicited or not. But I'm just wondering, now that we are in 2023, when are we going to get past these notions of certain roles or societal constraints that we're putting on women versus men, and I'm not necessarily trying to leave transgender people out of this, but at the same time, what I'm just talking about people who identify as what. So if a person identifies a woman, whether they're a cis woman or a trans woman, there's going to be certain expectations just because you are a woman.
Right.
And then and if a man, whether he's cis or trans, there's going to be certain expectations that's going to come onto them because they are a man.
Right.
And we have these particular social constructs of gender that says that men are supposed to be this and women are supposed to be that. But oftentimes women are the possession of men, and they have to be subjugated to men, and they have to be submissive to men according to the Bible, and all these different things, and they cannot be their own person. I mean, like, is there a way out of this, or does it seem like that we're just being more regressive when it comes to these particular notions?
I usually tend to stay away from the whole gender wars thing
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to put everyone in the same box.
Sure.
But these are things that do need to be discussed.
Yeah.
I will say for the record that, my husband is a subscriber. He still watches Kevin Samuels videos. Now, even though that man is dead and gone now, it kind of makes me sick to my stomach. That he does. And it's unfortunate that, and even going back to the counter protests of the anti-abortionists at the clinic, just the way that these men were being so condescending to not just to the clinic defenders and the counter protesters, but even to the women who were there with them. I mean, it was just absolutely disgusting. And unfortunately, as long as you have people who are invested, and let's not make this mistake, there are a lot of atheists who are still invested in this as well, whether they realize it or not.
Right.
As long as you still have people invested in this idea, in these ideas of what men and women, or these roles of what men and women are supposed to do, then unfortunately this will continue. Right. And it is extremely unfortunate that, hopefully, we would love it if everyone was able to have a therapist to overcome any type of indoctrination, especially especially if you experience trauma.
Yeah.
That goes along with that, because there is a level of trauma, whether you realize it or not, that goes along with being indoctrinated into the society, especially American society. Yeah. Because the one thing I say is that even though I wasn't formally raised religious, I was still indoctrinated.
Sure, of course.
Many of us have had these notions sort of beat into our brains, if you will, about the role, our roles in society. And it's truly unfortunate that, and oftentimes we still feel like we have to mind every aspect of everyone's business.
Yeah.
And we can be in community with each other and still not have to be all up in each other's business all the time.
Right.
And also being able to understand and not always, most people, I know we always say walk a mile in my shoes, right?
Sure.
It's important for us to be empathetic and understand what other people are going through. But you also don't have to project your own insecurities onto other people.
Yeah.
Just because it is not something that you would do, it doesn't mean you have to knock the next person for doing it.
Exactly.
Because all of our situations in some ways are different. They vary. There's a whole bunch of gray areas. And it's like, it's not just one way of doing things. Everything is not just simply black and white.
Right.
So it's being able to understand the nuances of our communities, our cultures, of our beings as people. And also getting comfortable with being uncomfortable about the things that we have been raised to think are shameful.
Yeah.
Things that we've been taught to think that are considered inappropriate. Now, there might be some things that are inappropriate, and there might be some things that you need to draw boundaries on. But like you said, when we are talking about grown and consenting adults, and people who are having conversations and are willing to receive information, that's another thing, right? Because we have a lot of folks who, when you bring these conversations up, and a lot of them, sorry to say this, the more sensitive ones are the men.
Yeah.
The more sensitive ones are the men.
Yeah.
You cannot tell them, about certain things, and they're like, oh my gosh.
Right.
When it comes to women's liberation.
Yeah.
And our expression, it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's insane. Like, I don't particularly care to do generalities, but but generally speaking, when I'm having these conversations, especially when they're like in mixed company per se, it seems like that a lot of times, like if I'm talking to men, they have this very staunch attitude about these roles that women are supposed to play in. And then anytime that you kind of like step outside of that box, it's almost like they feel very they feel insulted and offended. That's the word I was looking for. They feel very offended that, you know, you, I guess, have a different idea of how you are supposed to be as a person, because, you know, and how you woman, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, like and like, of course, like I was saying, like, you know, I know that gender is a social construct, but like whether if you are a trans woman or whether if you are a cis woman, that's still like that over that title woman is basically kind of almost like a verb, or like how you do it, right? How do
Right.
you woman? Yeah, and I would love to know in the chat, anybody who like identifies as a woman, put that in there. Like, how do you woman? Like, how do you present yourself? How do you express yourself in your womanhood? I would love for you all to put that in. And towards the end of the show, we're going to read off some of them.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, I do. Like, I know that Matt Walsh does that. What is a woman? And I just, no, I will not say what I'm really wanting to say about Matt Walsh, but but instead of saying like what is a woman, let's just say how do you
How do
woman?
you woman?
How do you woman? And I think that how any person who identifies as a woman's is up to that woman. I, you know, I know that for me, there may be like certain lifestyles that I may say that's not necessarily for me. But I don't necessarily have any issue for another person who may embrace that. And just also too, just wanted to give a couple of shout outs to people who have given to the super chat. I think that I saw one earlier from Fair and Salas. Thanks, Cynthia and Mandisa and Skeptic Haven. Thank you for the $9.99 Fair, and we really do appreciate it. We got another super chat from a Fern Love Bond, who says, any exception to their narratives offends privilege. Whoo, that's a word. So, okay, so I'm glad you brought that up, Fern, and especially like since we were discussing like when you're having conversations about this, you know, this very thing, about how like patriarchy and misogyny like shows up, and you're talking to maybe like if you're talking to a person that identifies as a man and who has like that classical mental mentality of manness, that they, you know, then sometimes like you do have a tendency, they have a tendency to be offended if you happen to step outside of whatever the norm of womanhood is. So let's talk about that. You know, first off, is there such thing as men privilege, and how does it show up if there is?
Well, if we want to talk about privilege of men, or as some people said, you know, it's you know, often it's often described as male privilege, or you know, what is this? I mean, we look at that as, first of all, we can look at this. No, we can look to no further than the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And how it is still very much male dominated. It is now dominated by conservative men, hypocritical men like Clarence Thomas, who think that they have every right, or what they would consider their God-given right, to make laws that impact other people, that don't necessarily impact them directly, but by what they think is best for everybody.
Right.
And it also comes from a position of not actually talking to the people who it may impact. We still see a lot of men privilege and domination in our, in levels of entertainment. We see it when it comes to, now there are more women who are educated. I mean, and they will tell you that now women are ruling everything, right? Feminism is killing everything.
And that's what they say. But is it?
Right.
It's really.
No. And even when it comes to aspects of 304 culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I think of that, I think of all of the hip hop videos that I used to watch growing up. The Two Live Crews, Move
Mm-hmm.
Something, which is one of my favorite songs
Mm-hmm.
by them.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the videos, you look at how most of the men are fully clothed,
Right.
but the women either have on little or next to nothing. Now, if it is their choice to do that, then great.
Mm-hmm.
But now we are at a point where there are a lot of women who are expressing that, their discomfort with that,
Yeah.
and how that was how they had to get on, by putting on little or next to nothing
Right.
in order to be accepted. And they were still exploited and harassed. I mean, my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, I don't think many men would have ever had to go through, oh well, if you want to get this part, you're gonna have to take off your clothes, or you're gonna have to sleep with me, otherwise you're not gonna get this job.
Mm-hmm.
Or that you're automatically gonna be othered into a specific role or a specific type of job. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that job is for, and yes, there are women who can do jobs that are supposedly designated for men, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it comes to
Right.
physical labor.
Mm-hmm.
But we still see a lot of what it means for, the male gaze, if you will. Now, does
Mm-hmm.
that mean that all of that has to appeal to men? No, because there are a lot of women who like it too. What I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Especially as we become more cognizant of the LGBTQ community. There are a lot
Mm-hmm.
of women who like to see tits and ass. I mean,
Sure.
I like it as someone who appreciates nudity.
Mm-hmm.
I like looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do want to make sure that it is equitable in the way that it is enjoyable for everyone. It is respectful to both the viewer and the person
Mm-hmm.
who is expressing themselves,
Right.
and that they are not in a position where they feel like they have to be there, as opposed to them wanting to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that also they are that they are being respected, whether they have clothes on or not.
Yeah, I think that's the line that sometimes I personally wrestle with, is that as a person that appreciates, I do appreciate nudity. I don't necessarily think I want to walk around naked, but that's my own personal issue. But any person who is very comfortable in their body and wants to, show off themselves, and they're comfortable in the skin that they're in and comfortable being in the nude, I don't have a problem with it at all. And I really do appreciate the human form, however it's being expressed. But there is, as you mentioned previously, this line, and it's a pretty fine line between folk who were, expressing, who were, showing themselves in that form, to either because they wanted to versus they had to in order for them to get a foot in the door in the industry.
Mhm.
And I think that, like, another issue that I have seen as well, especially if I'm talking to men who would like to conflate the two, that they would bring that whole thing up about, well, you guys was, like women specifically or what have you, would cry foul if a woman is being subjugated by another man because, they're making her either walk around nude or in a very scantily dressed. I
Mhm.
can't say that word.
Scantily clad.
Yes. Dressed, and then, but when, your other girl does it because she wants to, then that's fine. I said, yeah, there's a difference, because it's one thing when you're doing it because you have to, or you're being coerced to, versus doing it because you want to, you know like, I know that, like, some people, and I've even seen this happen specifically with other women online, who was giving Janelle Monae
Oh,
hell.
yes.
And for you all who don't know who Janelle Monae is, she's an artist, who recently I heard her say on an interview that she's in her thick season. So, and I'm like, and she came up with an album and pretty recently where her first video was everybody basically had on like swimwear, and most of them were like bikinis, and she had like all types of representations of bodies, thick bodies, small bodies, in between bodies, some rolls, some not rolls, just to show that there are all types of bodies that's out there, and they're all good, all of them. And she recently performed at a concert. Well, it's like it's called the Essence Festival, where she sang her new song, and she flashed them when she was talking about her areola, but she had a pasty on it, right? But everybody's like, "Oh my Jesus, Lord, have mercy, my goodness, why she had to do that, Lord, oh Lord." Some of them all that. God, this was lost their mind just because she flashed one titty. I'm like, my goodness, God. And she's one of those people who do express and also supports people to embrace themselves, and especially like in your femininity, or however you want to express that, and including showing it off if you want, what I'm saying. And I don't necessarily see anything wrong with that, because again, this is an informed decision that the individual is making, that they want to do that rather than being told to do that.
Cynthia, I'm going to interject for a moment.
Please interject.
Because this brings about the type of, this is where we come into the only certain women are supposed to be doing this, right? Janelle Monáe is an accomplished, she's an accomplished singer. She's an accomplished actress.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, she was in Moonlight. Yep. She was in the second iteration of Knives Out.
Hidden Figures.
So, yes, Hidden Figures. And when she first came out as an artist, I know she used to be in Suits. She was a part of the whole Dungeon Family, Outcast.
Yeah.
And but now it's like, well, now you look like that stripper or that hoe, that hooker, right? There's a certain type of woman that's not supposed to be doing these types of things. And it's only supposed to be reserved for those type of women, the women that you see in the strip clubs, or the women that are into sex work, or if you have presented yourself in the public eye, you're not supposed to be showing off your body like that, or and also the other person there was someone who had an issue with Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah.
That was India Arie who.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I just like real quick, like I liked India Arie until she did that. I did. I mean, like I liked, but then like after she did that, I've heard that was not the first time that she has been vocal about how women specifically, or women artists, are presenting themselves.
She's a hater.
Yeah, that's a damn shame. But yeah, go ahead, because I would like to, for you to go ahead and say.
Yeah, and that's the thing about respectability politics, right? Once you see a woman in a certain type of role, that I know when Halle Berry did what was that movie with Hugh Jackman where she did a cameo and her boobs were out. I think people made such a big deal about that, like forever.
Was it is that the one that she won the Oscar for?
No, that was Monsters Ball. I think it might have been I think it was Swordfish with
Hugh yeah. Okay,
yeah, and she did the it was she barely. I mean, of course, even with Monsters Ball, they had an issue with that too.
Yeah.
Even though Halle Berry has always been a very diverse actress.
Yeah.
Always has been. But of course, for her look, she's not supposed to be doing that type of thing. I know you remember years ago when Toni Braxton, when she was on the Vibe cover of Vibe magazine, and all she had on was, I think she was covering her breasts. There might have been a sheet covering her. She got so much backlash from that.
I think part of it also too is because like she comes from a very
she comes from a very, very
very
religiously conservative family.
yeah,
Even
yeah.
though them sisters are a hot mess on reality TV, right? But yes,
Right.
she does come from a very, very strict religious upbringing.
Yeah.
But it's like when women are presented in a certain light, or when they are presented a certain way in the public, you're not supposed to go against that at all. You're not. I mean, it's either one or the other. It's like you're coming out, being scantily clad, or it's the opposite. You're just not supposed to be able to do. It's almost like it's not supposed to be interchangeable at all. It's like
Yeah.
you're supposed to be this one way and not the other.
Why can't people evolve?
Yeah.
I mean, like when I look at Janelle Monáe, and as you discussed, like when she first came out, she used to always wear the black and white with the suits. Like I think that one of her first hits was Tightrope, and she was kind of doing like the James Brown dance, and it was like covered from head to toe. Her hair was always in this like this bun
Bouffant
thing,
sort of,
bouffant,
yeah.
yeah, kind of like giving a wink and a nod to like black performers back in the 50s and 60s.
Yes.
And but then like as time goes on and she got older, she switched up her look. For a minute she was doing the Afro futurism look. And I think that she did that on her, not this particular album that is out now, but the album before. And then also with that album before, she started to she started to actually come out and be a bit more or just like embracing of different body types. And also I think this is also when she revealed that she was pansexual. So with that that also came with her art actually reflecting her sexuality. So and so like people can change, they can evolve, they can change up looks, they can even change on how they decide to live their lives, and what they and what they like assign themselves to, as far as like what they believe and what they don't. I mean, I think to myself, like I didn't become atheist until I was 40.
Right.
I mean, like, so that was 6 years ago. So like I mean, like, and I went on a very long journey to becoming an atheist. And I can even think of like before, when I started to question things, I was still a Christian, but I still had those really, messed up notions in my head about how women are supposed to be because of indoctrination. You're supposed to submit to your husbands. The structure of the family is the husband, and then the wife, who is also the mother, and then the children, and everybody is basically looking to the father as a provider, and the wife is supposed to be his subordinate, and blah 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 blah. And and I mean, like, and it was very difficult. And yeah, you're right, Kat, that was hard to get over. It took you some years to, because like it's part of like deconstructing. And I'm not even gonna lie, like I still have to kind of battle within myself on those indoctrination points, especially like when I see certain people who, and how they, like artists, and how they present themselves, and I'm like, does she really have to wear that? And then I have to like step back. I'm like, okay, well, if she wants to, why do I care? Right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, you ain't gonna do it, but that don't mean that you're gonna have to go ahead and accost the other person, that decides to do it, however they decide to present themselves.
And can we talk about for a moment Lizzo, and how this is an extreme double standard as to the type of woman who is supposed to be wearing revealing clothing, right? Of course, if you're a full figure woman, like we are, right? You and I are considered what would be called BBWs, right? Beautiful Black women.
Yes.
And for the longest time, BBWs were, I remember the clothes used to be extremely unflattering for many of us.
Oh my gosh, tell me about it. It was like so hard
and
to find like clothing that didn't make you look like a grandma.
Right.
Yes.
Now, I mean, that is changing now because of this idea of what it means to have a standard of beauty, and that, I mean, first of all, looks do not always equal health, right? You cannot simply look at someone all the time and say that they are in bad health. Because if that was the case, we could look to Florence Griffith Joyner Flojo, who suddenly died of I think she had an asthma attack or something like that, and she was in perfect shape. You know, there are many instances in where a person can look healthy and even be healthy and suddenly die.
That's true.
So the thing is, like, for people like Lizzo, who wears very revealing outfits, you know, and she is a flautist as well, very, very talented.
Oh yeah.
But the fact that, yeah, she may shake her ass as a big woman in these very revealing clothing, she gets all kinds of hate.
Yeah.
She gets all kinds of backlash.
Yeah.
For that. And you know, I absolutely, I know when Queen Latifah first came out, you know, she was very much, you know, she had on suits, she had on, you know, and she looked good in that, and I think she still looks good now.
Yeah.
But for people to judge like Lizzo, for example, and act like, oh well, she just shouldn't be wearing, you know, this in a certain, you know, and I'm just like, my goodness, I'm like, girl, do your thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Do your thing for real. Because there is definitely, I'm sorry, there is definitely a double standard as to the type of woman.
Yeah.
That's why I'm glad that there are more fuller figured women that are being represented in these types of, you know, in these types of, you know, in the public. Because for the longest time, you're supposed to hide your shape. First of all, you're supposed to hide your shape even if you're in shape. But if you're considered out of shape, or if you're considered, you know, flabby or whatever, you're definitely not supposed to show off your body. You're supposed to be ashamed of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no one has to be ashamed of their body.
No, they don't. They don't. And you know, one of the things that I definitely will say specifically about Lizzo is I appreciate her staying true to who she is as a person, regardless of the backlash that she gets, because she's a full-figured woman who happens to, you know, dress more revealing and who twerks while she plays the flute. I'm like, listen, I'm glad you can play the flute, you know, but it's amazing that you can play the flute and twerk at the same time.
That part right there. Yes.
That's skills.
That's talent.
I ain't mad. You know. But yeah, she does get a lot of backlash just for, you know, how dare you wear things that's tight? How dare you wear things with your with cleavage? How dare you wear your arms out with short skirts and all this other stuff? And now you have a, you know, basically a clothing line and shapewear line where if it is for all types of bodies, and that basically promotes being able to be comfortable with the skin that you're in. And you know, and like, and I would hear that whole thing about that's unhealthy. I'm like, and there's a few people I've challenged when I would hear that, you know, because Lizzo happens to be, you know, big, is that, you know, she's unhealthy. And I was like, have you checked her blood work? Are you her personal physician? Do you have access to the charts that would actually show you what state of health this woman is in? You don't? Oh, okay. Then hush. In other words, you don't know if this woman is unhealthy or not. You wouldn't know unless she told you. You're just making an assumption based on what you see. And just because you happen to be a bigger person doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have health issues. You mentioned Flojo, Florence Joyner. This like, man, I mean, I remember when she just died and everybody was just like, oh my goodness. Same thing happened to Bruce Lee. He had a headache and he, you know, just went to take a nap. Next thing you know, he was dead. He died in his sleep because he had an aneurysm.
And that man had no body fat on him whatsoever.
None. None whatsoever. I was like, oh my goodness, who is he? You're not human. So, you know, I mean, like, just listen. My whole thing is like I personally just have like issues with people who are just like judging people based on what they see, and also based on what society is telling you that you're supposed to judge a person by, because of if they happen to be black, if they happen to be a woman, if they happen to be LGBTQ, if they happen to be in anything other than a cis white man, you know, then all of a sudden, like, you have to be like in this staunch box of
Yes.
how you're supposed to live your life. And it's really, really annoying.
Yeah.
Yes. And yes, Fern, you are correct. That is spelled correctly.
Yes.
Flautist. Yes, you spelled it correctly. That is a person who is trained to play the flute.
And it's interesting. You would think it would be flutist, but it's
Yeah,
not. It's
no, it's a
flautist, which
flautist.
is
Yes,
fine. Yeah.
that's cool. You know, I went to school with flautists. Yeah, I believe she has I think that she has a degree in music, and I believe that her principal instrument is the flute.
And
Yeah.
that also brings us to another type of conversation when it comes to
Hmm.
304 culture, that
Yeah.
once you reveal your body, that you are not supposed to be anything else. That you are you there is nothing else redeeming about you.
Hmm.
Then you took off your, or you wore revealing clothes, or that you take off your, you show your ass or whatever, and that there can be no other redeeming qualities about you.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think that is just absolutely that. I mean, that is so my, and I know that even in, like, let's say when it comes to sports, right? In
Hmm.
men's sports, that the only things that we may see are people who use their physical attributes, and that's the only thing that they do. And I
Hmm.
think that as a society, I think we should reconsider. There was this black boxer years ago. I think he might have been like in the middleweight
Hmm.
class. I think his name was Calderone, very good looking man.
Hmm.
But before he became a boxer, he was a banker. I think he
Hmm.
was like an investor.
Hmm.
And so I think that it is important for us to, but you know what that means? That you actually have to talk to people.
Hmm.
That means you have to talk to people. Wow.
What?
What a novel
Talk
idea.
talk to people and actually not make assumptions based on what you see.
Exactly. That
Wow.
part
What a
right
concept. Tell me
there.
more, Mandisa. Tell me more.
This idea that you have to look beyond the surface and actually talk to and get to know people before
Mhm.
you start making judgments about them, or when they do speak, that you are not inserting your own judgments and your
Yeah.
own preconceived notions and your own the things that may the things that may trigger you,
Hmm.
and we got a long way to go when it comes to that.
Yeah, yeah. I almost see like, and I'm wondering if it's because like we're now dealing with this Christian nationalist threat that's like very much so ingrained in the body politic, that um it's like causing, not, I don't want to say necessarily causing, but it's like amplifying regression when it comes to like these particular sensibilities on what is considered, what women are supposed to do, what men are supposed to do, what children are supposed to do, what anybody is supposed to do, as far as like defining these roles that we're supposed to be fixed in. And I know that like I don't know if you got a chance to see the documentary on the Duggars called Shiny Happy People on Prime.
I don't know if I can stand. I'm not sure if I can stomach that.
Yeah, I watched it. I watched it, and it was, I just have to say wow. I mean, and one of the things that I did also, not only did I watch it, I listened to a couple of shows, podcasts that I happened to listen to that did commentary on it. And one of the things that a lot of people were like pointing out was that the Duggars were part of this organization called the Institute in Basic Life Principles, or the IBLP. And I forgot the guy who started it, but it's basically promotes having a lot of children so that they can be able um, uh, to take that basically indoctrination to the world and convince other people to think that way. It's very compartmentalized when it comes to roles of people in the family. So like the husband slash father is the head. He is the patriarch. He is what he runs the family, and what he says goes. And then the wife is basically the person that's over the children, and then the children basically are subjugated to whatever mother says, who is supposed to basically carry out the instructions of the father. They also promote homeschooling because they don't necessarily want to have the world ideas to be placed into their children. They want to be the ones that are controlling the narrative about what children are supposed to believe and see and how they go about life. So it's and but in the interim, what ends up happening is when you have an organization that is really pushing these notions, including how women are supposed to dress, how they're supposed to present themselves, and apparently it's a really it's one of the things that happens to happen in cults like this is that sexual abuse is rampant. Matter of fact, Josh Duggar, the oldest son, is in jail right now because sexually assaulting his sisters, and I believe others. I'm not really sure about that, but I definitely know that he sexually assaulted his sisters. And they but the thing that they teach in the IB the institute is that you're supposed to, as a woman, to dress very chaste. You can't reveal yourself in any kind of way, because if you do, you're going to basically be the Jezebel and make a man look at you in a way that is wanting. And if for some reason you happen to be sexually assaulted because you were dressed a certain way, it's your fault. Even if you didn't even think that you were dressed a certain way, you were following the rules. There was a possibility that you gave away some type of look or attitude, or you showed too much forearm or ankle or what have you. And if you still get assaulted, it's
It's
still your
your fault.
fault because you did something to make that man do that to you. This is kind of like the teaching that they're given. And I want to tell a quick story. I told this to my partner when we were having this conversation, about this very thing, and especially when we were talking about sexual abuse and sexual assault, and how I was telling him specifically that that this has nothing to do with attraction per se. It's about power.
That, yes.
Yeah, sexual assault is violence.
Mm-hmm.
And as an antidote, I remember a few years back, I used to work in downtown Chicago, and I ended up going to some type of club after work because they were having like a live band set or whatever. And I love live music. So I was by myself and I happened to go. And I was like, well, I got a little time before I could go home. I stopped by, listened to the people sing, play the music. It was great. I had a drink and I was like, okay, time to go home. And at that time, even though I had a car, I was taking public transportation. So as I left the club and I was walking towards I think I was walking towards either the red line or at one of the bus stops to take me home. And this young man happened to start walking, and he started walking with me, and he was very good looking, and younger than me, because he said so. So, and as we were talking, he was telling me that he's a student. He also works at the bar that's not that far from there, and he also happened to reveal to me that he was quite inebriated. And he asked me, "Can I walk with you a little bit?" And at first, I was like a little skeptical. I'm like, I don't know you from a can of paint, but okay, you can walk with me for a minute just so that you don't fall and get ran over by a cab, something like that, right? So, as we were walking, I remember him telling me that you're really pretty. I'm like, thanks. And then he just opened his mouth and just tried to kiss me. Yeah, I was like, whoa. Sir, like, listen, I don't know you. I don't know you. I mean, I'm willing to give you my number. Well, I was, but I don't know you, and and you're kind of invading my space. And he tried to do it twice, and I had to tell. I said, listen, I'm gonna walk over this way. You walk over that way. I don't do that.
Right.
Like, I mean, like, I don't know you. I don't know you. I mean, like, I know that people like do like one night stands and they hook up all the time. That's fine, but
there still needs to be conversation.
Right,
around that. You don't just stick your tongue down somebody's throat.
Yeah.
Without their permission. You
Right,
just don't
exactly.
do that.
Like, hi, my name is Harold. Like,
right, yeah. I mean,
whoa!
there needs to be some sort of there needs to be some sort of communication, whether it's body language or verbal or something.
Exactly.
You need to know that was okay to do.
Right. And clearly it was not. And I remember, and I told my partner, I said, you know what I had on? I had on jeans, a jean jacket, and a turtleneck. Okay. That's what I had on. I had, I think I had like minimalist makeup, like I normally just have on, just to cover, just to smooth things out. I was not dressed scantily as one may think, or what have you, or in my way. I did not give this man any type of inclination that I wanted him just to kiss me out of the blue. So in actuality, I mean, like, I was lucky, because that is considered assault. If you're doing something against my will to me, and I did not ask you to do it, that's assault.
Yeah.
And he just felt like, I guess, like, he was in the moment, and he felt bold and brave, because I guess, like, the alcohol made him completely have lifted off all those filters, that he was able to do it. And I had to tell him no. But it's like some people, but I went home and didn't think none of it. I was fine. But there are others who may have been in similar situations where they don't get off scot-free. Like the Duggar sisters, unfortunately. And instead of like them being taught that, and the son being taught that it's never, ever, 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 ever okay for you to put your hands on or to invade anybody's private area without them consenting to it. I don't care what and one of the things I even told him too, I was like, I don't care if a person is running down the street butt naked with pasties on their butt and their booty. It's still not okay for any person to come and try to invade their particular space without their consent.
Right.
Ever. So I wish I knew how do we get past this, because, and I know that because, like, we've been dealing with these type of conversations since Methuselah was a baby.
Right.
But I mean, but it's getting to the point where, like, and I mean, like, I guess, like, one of the things that I am glad about is that, like, more people are willing to have these conversations, and more people are willing to not necessarily go with societal standards on how one needs to be or how one is supposed to be because of the way that they were raised, and especially when it comes to religious indoctrination. But we still have way too many that buy into the bullshit when it comes to these roles and being quick to call somebody a hoe.
Right.
And that's yeah, by the way, Puck, I know that you were asking what does 304 mean, because you came in late, but yeah, that's what it means. It means hoe. So they're quick to, and but whole not necessarily being like, like a playful term. It's actually used in a way for it
It's
to be
derogatory.
right, a derogatory term, to basically slut shame people, just because they happen to not fit into your box of what they're supposed to be. And I really don't know. Mandisa, what you think?
Well, as someone who has been accused of being a 304 a number of times in my life,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, first of all, I had to come to, I remember, because even though, like I said, I wasn't formally raised religious, I did have a mother who was somewhat conservative. She has her own issues of what it means to be like a feminist, or,
Mm-hmm.
and it was more of the activist thing, but when it came to personal expression and sexuality, that was different.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized a long time ago that I liked looking at, I like shaking my ass at times, right? I did like sex. There were certain things that I probably should have done differently had I been, had I had better guidance.
Mm-hmm.
I always knew that I always felt like the whole keep your skirt down and your panties up was a little, it was always a bit loaded, especially towards little girls,
Yeah.
especially considering that there was almost no accountability for the men and the boys
Yeah.
who were engaging as well.
Right.
That was always hypocritical to me.
Mm-hmm.
But once I realized that there were things that I liked, like I liked watching porn, I realized I liked at times going to a strip club.
Mm-hmm.
I like talking about, sex. I like having open conversations about it.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that there was nothing wrong with me.
Mm.
When
Mm-hmm.
people are, I mean, it becomes normalized. So it's just like, what's the big fucking deal?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, of course, it's always good to gauge your audience, and that this is a harsh lesson that I learned recently, that everyone is not ready for candid conversations,
Yeah.
and are not mature enough to handle them.
Yeah.
And I do come from a family that, we talk to everybody, right?
Mm.
We engage in conversation with some of everyone
Yeah.
about even some of the most interesting of subjects.
Yeah.
That's just how we are.
Mm-hmm.
But this idea of, and even some of them are just like, oh well, she shouldn't be wearing this, that, and the third. I had to learn how to be like, you know what, mind your damn business.
That part.
If it's not paying my bills, why do I care?
That part.
And the fact that, even because the famous thing, well, won't somebody think of the kids?
Yeah. Yeah.
Won't somebody think of the children?
Like real quick, I want to just tell us something else that I happened to see on Twitter, that another lady was being slut shamed because she happens to be she's an adult entertainer, and she's very graphic with her art. Let's put it that way. And she happened to be on a podcast, and she was basically being very frank about what she does and how she enjoys what she does, and was told, yeah, hashtag what about your children. And she was like, my kids are fine. I make sure they go to school. I make sure they have a roof over head. They're eating fine. I pay my bills, etc., etc., etc. But at the same time, I do this work because it's work and I enjoy it. I mean, I don't know a lot of us that got a 9 to 5 that can say that, oh, every day I just get up and just can't wait to go to work.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I
Right.
mean, me being one of them, but you got bills to pay, you know what I'm saying? And this is the way that, and the job that I do is how I chose to go ahead and be able to pay my bills. But my goodness, I get so sick and tired of hearing those words, especially when it comes from other folk, when they're trying to like basically downplay other people because they happen to be sex workers. And, you know, they're always thinking about, well, what about the children? I'm like, yo, look, let me tell you something. We got a whole institution called the Catholic Church where it was plenty of children. I being an ex Catholic church schoolgoer, where they were assaulted by priests and nuns and teachers and things of that nature. You know, it wasn't just priests that was sexually assaulting children. You know, others did it too. It was just that it was more prevalent in the priesthood. And people was sending their children to these schools to be educated, okay, never thinking that they would possibly be traumatized because their development was interrupted because an adult decided to basically exact violence upon them.
Right.
Okay. So, I don't want to hear about that, because somebody should have been thinking about the children then when that whole scandal was broken back in 1629. Okay, so when was he talking about think about the children then? And it wasn't just the Catholic Church. There's other religious organizations where children have gone to these places and they have been sexually assaulted by ministers and by pastors and by elders and other people in leadership who use their positions of authority in order to again exact violence on these children. So she's not doing that. She just happens to be a sex worker, and she's using that money that she gets to take care of her children. So in my eyes, I think she is thinking about her children.
She's probably thinking about her children more than they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what, there is a better chance that her kids are going to grow up to be more emotionally mature and mentally mature because they have a parent who is unashamed to talk to about, hopefully the conversations are taking place, and I'm sure there are, right? I think it stands to reason that the more educated you are, or the more informed you are, the better decisions that you can make.
Yeah.
And when children are better informed about these things, and you're not hiding it from them, it doesn't mean that it has to be a part of an everyday conversation, but avoiding it is how things like the Duggar family happens.
Yeah.
Avoiding it is how these other, I have watched other documentaries on like these fundamental Mormon cults.
Yeah.
Where these young girls are married off to these older men, and they don't even have the opportunity to enjoy sex.
Right.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how, the abstinence movement.
Yeah.
Such a recipe for disaster, especially for women and girls.
Work. It don't work.
Also does not. I think so many of us are not really advised on how to enjoy sex or being intimate with someone, whether it is of the opposite or the same sex or what have you.
Right.
Because there are all of these notions that are religiously based, and this idea that I can't tell you how many times I heard over those past few days at that protest that sex is simply supposed to be for procreation, and that's it. That's it. That is like one of the worst pieces of advice.
Yeah.
And to have this black guy who was among all of these white supremacists with his family.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, there were a couple of them, but yeah, there was definitely the one with his family who called me an Uncle Tom and a coon because we supported abortion rights. We supported Black genocide. That's what he said. And he was saying that he was raising his girls to be, to wait till marriage. But when he kept cutting me off, I'm like, this is what you're showing your daughters? Is that they're going to be married to a man like you who will disrespect and be condescending to women right in front of them?
Yeah.
That's supposed to be okay, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just, oh my goodness, this idea that, oh, they're protecting the kids. Like, no, you are the ones parading these awful pictures of what are supposed to be fetuses and babies around them, and you don't think you're traumatizing them.
Right.
To talk about murder and death all the time, you don't think they're traumatized. You don't think you're traumatizing them. That's
Exactly.
traumatizing them more than them seeing a titty or a booty
That's
cheek.
right. That's right. I mean, like they come out the womb coming to see a titty. That's how they get
Yeah.
there. Oh, have mercy. Proverbially. Sorry, y'all. I slipped back into
Oh
my
my
Christianism
goodness.
real quick, because that type of behavior is absolutely insane. Like, you know, I happened to even get into a little bit with another guy who was saying that, man, these women out here, like, with how they're presenting themselves and this, that, and the third, and how am I supposed to find a wife? And I'm like, listen, sir, you have, and I remember telling him, I said, you have multiple baby mothers.
Right. How are you not the hoe
Right,
here?
and you're sitting up here, and you're basically sitting up here, women shaming on your social media. If a potential woman, who would be attracted to you, happened to see your post, well, she had half sense, she would run away.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, I don't think, and I think that this is something that I don't really believe that others who happen to embrace these sensibilities, like the man that you were engaged with during the protests, really think about. Like, how do you what do you think that you're teaching your daughters specifically,
Right.
when you're basically insulting another black woman who happens to look like them, and telling her, and basically, chastising her because she believes in bodily autonomy. Like, if anything, this is something that you should teach your child, your daughters specific, really. I mean, you should teach it to your sons too, that bodily autonomy is important, because the only person that should be making any type of decisions about what happens to your body is you.
Right.
It shouldn't
Right.
be up to the state. It shouldn't be up to any person but you. If you are a person of your own mind, you should be able to have a conversation, or you should be able to, learn and be able to make decisions about how you want to be able to be touched, how you want to be able to raise your family, if that's a thing for you at that time, how you even want to be able to present yourself to the world. All of that is bodily autonomy. And when you happen to be in this place, sir, and you're yelling at other people who are just basically receiving health care, because that's what they were doing when they were going
Yeah.
to the clinic, and your daughters are seeing this is really giving them a very skewed and very perverted way of being able to actually to see what a man is supposedly supposed to be in their lives. I mean, especially, like, there's a saying that for girls, like, the first man that they fall in love with is their father, and
Right.
they also choose who they're going to be with, if they're heterosexual, that they're going to choose a partner that's going to be like their father. But I if we actually, lean into this, I will be concerned for your children if this is what you're showing them.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, we got some questions
Sure.
that have been presented. So let's go ahead and go to that. Oh, and Fern, yeah, let me I'm gonna have to retrain my brain. You want to put that up, producer? I thought that was funny. You can always train your brain to sub in void when you say God or Lord. So void, have mercy. Oh my goodness. I don't know if voids can have mercy, but I'm gonna try that. So at least I can get out the problematic problematic talk. But actually, and another thing I was going to tell Skeptic Haven, I think that there were some other questions that were in the chat that was at Skeptic Haven for us to answer. So if you can kind of peruse the chat and put and star them, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. So we did get to these particular super chats from Farron and Fern. Again, thank you so much for giving to today's show. But the other question that we had specifically, and forgive me if I butcher this name, I'm so sorry. I think it's Kiko Landzik. Probably put the phonetic spelling in the chat so that I can get it correctly. But you asked us, like, what is our attitude towards Black Israelites? But you can see that I'm like smiling real big. And Kiko, I'm just gonna shorten your name. You said recently I came across a Haitian with what claims to be a Black, I believe you've mentioned, which claims to be a Black Israelite. I'm going to let Mandisa.
You're gonna let me start that off?
Yeah.
So the Hebrew Israelites are basically just another form of the evangelical Christians that we came across this weekend. They have a very, very skewed version of history.
Mm-hmm.
They are extremely misogynistic.
Yeah.
They are very, very cult-like.
Yeah.
But then they also, the men will, and some of the women now apparently will stand on a street corner in hot clothes yelling at you. It's funny, they'll yell at you about white Jesus, but then they believe they believe that they are the first Hebrews. They don't even think they're African, or that they are from African. They are descended from Africans.
Yeah.
The scary part is that these folks do have schools.
Yeah.
They do. They have, and I mean they keep getting caught in these scandals as well. I think there was a Hebrew Israelite sect that the leader was caught with like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and also was abusing young girls.
Wow.
So I mean there have been a number of instances of them doing that. Mm-hmm. And I mean sadly, I think isn't Kyrie Irving a Hebrew Israelite, the one who
I believe so.
Yeah, the one who shared that video.
What was it called? Because I watched that thing. I even rented it because I wanted to know what the hullabaloo was about. I think from Negroes to Hebrews, Wake Up Black America, something like that. Yeah, I watched that. I was like, I want my $12 back.
Cynthia is much better than me. Most of the time, I am just like, you know what? I am not about to waste brain cells that I cannot get back watching and listening to some of this stuff. She's so much better than me. My patience is, I don't have enough patience for that.
It's more so like I know that like my partner and I have these discussions a lot about knowing what the opposition says and knowing the opposite side of the argument. And I wanted to, but like, like I wanted to know, like, is this thing really anti-Semitic? Is this thing really have truth and stuff like that? I wanted to know for myself. And I can definitely see where they consider like the anti-Semitism is from. And it definitely gets to the point where we have like a lot of, gish galloping going on, and really bad interpretation of print of data that that they are saying, and also too, like they try to use scientific points without really understanding the science behind it. I think that they talked a lot about genetics and DNA and chromosomes, and and the person who's doing all this is not a geneticist and not a scientist whatsoever. They're just, kind of just like going off of these like half-baked ideas, really big into conspiracy theories, especially when it comes to Jewish people. Also the claim with Black Hebrew Israelites is that, Sephardic and Ashkenazi Jews specifically are not real Jews because they're white and they became Jews, so they're not the real children of God or what have you. And to be honest, I turn to all of them and say, ain't none of y'all the children of God because God don't exist.
That part
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me use my agnostic atheist a language. Based on the information that or the lack of evidence, I do not believe that a God exists. And there you go. Okay. So yeah, so basically chill on all that. But if I were to say what my take of Black Hebrew Israelites are, I was like, man, all these people need to be committed to the same asylum. Oh my gosh, they're pretty. I know that they're bigger in New York than they are in Chicago, but we do have them here. And boy, Mandisa one line when they would talk about, these people would stand on the corner or someplace shouting something in rain or shine. Sometimes they'll even have their children out there with them holding signs with, I remember like there's like an area right across the street from a bank that's not too far from my house where they gather every Saturday morning religiously shouting and saying, I don't know what, at half the time I don't even know what the hell they're talking about because I never pay attention. Because I know that a lot of times they have a very skewed idea about the scriptures and what God said and what he didn't say and how it applies to Black people specifically. So yeah, they what did you say, Fern? Children of the Void? That's what I think of them. To be honest with you, I think of them as children of the void because my goodness, because to me, I think that they're really just like, screaming into the void. Okay. Got another question. I think we got two from Fern, like a question and a comment. But the next one was at Skeptic Haven, isn't it crazy that Cynthia had to bring up her attire in a situation where clearly this man was dead wrong? Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes.
We're always having to defend ourselves. What were you wearing?
Why?
Shouldn't matter.
It shouldn't matter what I was wearing. I should have said I was butt naked walking down Michigan Avenue. And he still would have been dead wrong. He still would have been dead wrong. Because just because I was butt naked don't necessarily mean that I wanted you to kiss me out of the blue. That was not the case. I did not proposition you in any way to give you the notion that I wanted that to happen. So puppy breaks. But it's insane that yes, that's an issue specifically like when we're talking about women specifically being sexually assaulted. The first thing that anybody brings up is what was she wearing? And in the instance, if we go back to the top of the hour when we're talking about Keke Palmer, and I heard some men say that what she had on was dangerous. I'm like, to whom?
To who? Right.
To whom? She had on something revealing. Yes, it was tight. Yes, dangerous. Like, listen, if any person wanted to assault her and she don't have security around, they will do it. Whether she have on a see-through dress or jogging pants, it does not matter. Yeah. If people have the idea in their head that they want to assault you and exact violence on you, that's what they're going to yabba dabba do.
Yeah. Exactly. We've seen this in countries where people are fully the women are fully dressed and it's like they are still assaulted.
Yeah.
They are still shamed.
Yeah.
Through no fault of their own. It's like, my goodness. And then when we talk about the privilege of men, that is it right there.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. And Farron, thank you. As a man, I absolutely have privilege. I just saw a post on Nextdoor app of a woman who was scared by a man making her severely uncomfortable on her walk. I never had to worry about that. And that's
That is a reality.
yeah, I mean, like, and I remember even having that conversation about, the whole thing that happened with that guy. And, I was told, like, well, if you were with your partner, would that have happened? And I was like, it shouldn't have happened at all.
No, not at all.
I mean, like, because, like, I have a job, he has a job. I can't expect my partner to be with me 24/7, to walk around me just because, somebody may try it. Like, why can't a person keep their hands to themselves?
That part right there.
What?
That part right there. That part. Keep your hands to yourself.
Please. My gosh. Anywho, and then the last, we have another comment specifically from Fern. Yes, and Cynthia touched on one of my personal my personal peeves, the sexual abuses of clergy and anti-women stance of their moral standards. Yeah, it's I being on the nonprofits, like, a lot of times I field different sources for articles of what we're going to talk about. And I tell you guys, we are never at a loss for sexual abuse cases that happens in church, whether if it's the Catholic Church or whether if it's in the SBC, whether if it's in some of these other cult-like areas like the Mormons, or the, what did I call the place, the IBLP, or the Jehovah Witness. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just like, it seems like that every organization that bears like some type of moniker of religion has this issue where we have clergy people in specifically that I feel it's okay to sexually abuse people, and it's absolutely insane. I don't. Gosh, yeah,
It just, there's a whole lot more work that we have to do
yeah,
in disrupting and dispelling these narratives. And I'm glad that Keke Palmer's baby daddy was dragged
yeah.
online.
I am too.
Like, who the hell are you?
Yeah, yeah.
To have done this to her,
Exactly.
and to do it to your child as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. Because you were assaulting. You were insulting the mother of your child.
Yeah, yeah, it really was.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that the baby is still a baby. He can't read, but what if that comes up in his future? Daddy, what you say about mommy?
Right, right.
The disrespect of it all is just insane.
Hmm.
And we do have to do better. But what were you gonna go say, Mandisa?
No, I was just gonna say, like, there's so much audacity. That was another
Hmm.
word that kept coming up among us these past couple of days. Like, if they had nothing else, it was audacity.
Yeah,
Nothing else.
yeah. And it's kind of crazy if I think about like the people who actually came out to to um to basically show their hate speech, because that's exactly what they were doing
Hmm.
when you guys were defending the abortion clinic, that they actually took time out of their schedules to come to this clinic just to be hateful.
Yeah. I called it for what it was. I said, y'all are harassing me. Well, we're just trying to share. No, y'all are harassing people. That's exactly what we called it. I said, y'all are y'all are infringing on people's rights. Y'all are being harassing. No, we're just no, no.
I liked when Tina was recording another person. Tina, by the way, everybody, is Tina Marshall is the lead affiliate of Black Nonbelievers in Charlotte, and she is
Yes.
also a defender.
Yes.
And she actually came to Atlanta to defend this clinic, and Mandisa joined her.
Mm.
But what happened is that she was actually filming, a man who was like constantly spewing his Christian rhetoric and basically doing the whole the altar call, at the same time being very accusatory of these of the patients that were coming into this clinic. And Tina said, she said, y'all, this is white supremacy in your face right now. Oh no, it's not. I said, yes it is. And guess what? Just because you happen to be of a different race doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot pop up white supremacy. You absolutely can.
Absolutely.
You absolutely can. Like, when the guy basically, turned to Mandisa and called her Uncle Tom and Coon because she was defending people's rights to be able to, get proper health care when they didn't want to be pregnant any longer.
Right.
Or either they didn't want to, or it was going to be unhealthy for them to remain pregnant. Because there's all different reasons why a person may, get an abortion. But to the point where, regardless of who or the why, it's none of our business to infringe on that person's right to get the health care that they need, regardless of the why. And thank you again, Fern, for your super chat. I appreciate it. Because I talk too much blowhard taxes. Man, tell us about it. But we're gonna wrap up pretty soon because we've been on for a little while. But Mandisa,
this was
thank
great.
you.
This was
Yeah.
oh my gosh. I love it when we're
you.
able to talk about the things we're so passionate about. Just
Yes,
air.
yes.
Yes, this is so amazing.
Man, and thank you so much for actually coming on and having this conversation about 304 hoe culture.
Yeah,
Guys, make sure
wow.
the conversation will continue when there's a misogyny panel next week on the 29th. Make sure you guys actually tune into that. Mandisa, talk about as we are wrapping up, can you just share a little bit about what's coming up with the Black non-believers and what's going on?
Absolutely. So first, we are still in the middle of our summer fundraising campaign. Every summer, we try to raise about $5,000. We co-sponsor a student scholarship with the Secular Student Alliance. We have other bills that we got. We got to keep the lights on here around at Black Nonbelievers, and so we are in the middle of our fundraising season, just so that we can consider. We are still a 501c3 nonprofit organization, both federally with the IRS and also in the state of Georgia now. And so we do have the cruise coming up. The cabins are slim pickings now. So if anybody is still interested in going, you might want to contact me, and I can contact Carnival to see what kind of cabin you might be able to get. We're going to be on the Carnival celebration. That's one of their newer ships, so there's a lot that is, it's a lot of fun, but we also have a lot of good programming, information, and education that's available. And also, I'm going to be speaking at Dragon Con in September, Labor Day weekend. We're going to see if we can all represent there. Cynthia and other folks, other being affiliate leaders. I will be looking to do more of the direct, clinic defender, Tina, who was over our Charlotte affiliate. Like we said, she founded Battle, which is Black Abortion Defense League. And a lot of those women who are doing that direct work are atheists, and they are humanists. And so I would love for this to become more of a component of what we do. We are still very much focused on the support and community for atheists, especially Black atheists. But these are issues that are extremely important to us. We have always championed reproductive freedom, sexual liberation, sexual freedom, of course, state and church separation. These are things that are all important to us. And this is a part of our fight when it comes to advocacy and visibility.
Right.
This is the work that we do at Black Nonbelievers. And it is important that we are on the front lines, speaking up, making ourselves visible, making ourselves heard, and also economic justice, which is, I know Cynthia is extremely passionate about.
Yeah.
We are extremely passionate about that as well, because we do talk about the history of that, how it impacts us as a community, how religion has impeded on that. And these are all things that we are oh my gosh, the work almost feels like it's never ending, right? But
Yeah.
over the past 12 years, we have been doing this work. We have been on the front lines of the visibility and the advocacy and the community support for those, especially for those Black atheists who've needed it, and also collaborating with our fellow secularists, whether they are officially in the community or not. And so this is just another, it was an experience being on the front lines of what Tina and what she does now with the with the clinic defenders and such. And this is something that I would like to, there are some members who have expressed wanting to do this more. So I'm like, hey, let's do it. Let's, whatever it is, if coming to terms with your atheism in a positive way leads you into doing something that is more in the realm of direct action, then it's important to do that. And it's important to know that you have a community that supports you in that.
Right.
That there are always going to be people where we can have these objective discussions, and also support each other in this work that we do, because at times it is difficult,
Yeah. And guys, just like knowing, just like being part of it, it's like a lot goes into running the meetup groups, and also being able to be an advocate for all these different issues that are affecting us as a community. I know, like, I'm a big champion, of course, of a black social and economic justice, especially I believe that one of the things that happened recently, the 3 survivors of the Tulsa massacre were they brought a case in the Oklahoma court to sue for reparations for what happened to them over 100 years ago, and their case was dismissed, even though there's plenty of evidence that shows that this was basically not only was it just like a white mob of people that came and burned down Greenwood District, but a lot of them were deputized by the state and local authorities in order for them to do it. So no, Oklahoma, you owe these people money and you need to pay them.
There are a lot of, that is another important part of reparations. And I remember saying this years ago about reparations for people whose lives, businesses, and homes were destroyed by the Ku Klux Klan.
Right.
Who in many counties and many states were working either in conjunction with local law enforcement, or they were law enforcement.
Exactly.
And or they were law enforcement doing these things that devastated the livelihoods of people.
Yeah.
All and yes, there needs to be reparations for that, because Tulsa is not the only place that it happened. The movie Rosewood was based on what happened in Rosewood, Florida, where the white mob came in and attacked the town. And I mean, there are plenty of instances where this has happened historically. And yes, the reparations should include that.
Yeah, it should. I mean, like, there's like, when we're having that whole conversation about, like, reparations, it's not just about slavery. It's also about, Jim Crow. It's about, the multiple lynchings that happened to Black people throughout Black codes. And it's about the prison industrial complex. It's about the targeting of Black bodies, especially during the war on drugs. It's also about these over 100 massacres, and also putting whole townships underwater, and like through an eminent domain through the government. So and like, all of these are the issues that we have taken up as an organization, and also we're very much so committed to teaching the truth. I know that Florida recently passed a bill on how one can talk about Black history to children in middle school and high school. One of the things that, like, if we're talking about these race massacres, Ocoee, Florida was another one, and the way that they were telling people to teach it was to say that violence was perpetrated to and also by African Americans. Yeah. So guys, we as Black non-believers, we have a lot to do. If you all don't mind putting up that the website one more time, please, because I was asking for the blacknonbelievers.org. You guys can go directly to the website and you can donate there. Also, we have a campaign going on at Facebook. So you can I know there's Mandisa shares it a lot. But if you just search, donate to Black non-believers on Facebook, it will come up.
Yes.
When you go to the website, it also shows like the other instances of how you can give. You can give on PayPal, you can give on Cash App, because the work is plentiful. And there's a lot and there's a lot to do,
Yes. And I
but
just like
yeah.
to mention real quick that
Yeah,
for
please.
those who would like to contribute anonymously, the PayPal Giving Fund allows for that.
Yeah.
PayPal does have a component where, I mean, through the regular donate link, you can opt to give one time or monthly.
Mm-hmm.
But the PayPal Giving Fund, you can give as much as you want, but you can also make your contribution anonymous if you so choose. And this really, again, does help the work. It helps our work tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we do a lot of social things. We like to have a lot of fun, but we like to have fun while we work.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very important part of what we do, but it is important. And like I said, like we said before, we advocate for, just liberation of all kinds. And this is one of the reasons why we have these conversations, is that it is important to deconstruct and dissect that so that we are making ourselves better individuals, so
Yeah.
that we can be a better community. It can only really help to, it can only really serve to make us better individuals and have more objective discussions and just, I mean, really do better work.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, whew.
Yes. Yes. And actually, I want to give a shout out for two other super chats that we have. One for AR, who said, keep on fighting. Keep the
Yes,
fight.
thank you.
Fighting the fight. Yes, we shall. AR, thank you for your donation to Skeptic Haven, and also to Cindy Plaza. What's up, Cindy? I miss you so much. I hope you're doing well. I can't wait to see you again. But yes, thank you for your super chat. Won't someone think of Black children? I know that's right. Can we think of Black children? Isn't
Oh,
that traumatizing?
you couldn't tell any anti-abortionists that they weren't thinking of Black
Oh my
children.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes. I hate that really fallacious argument that I hear from others about, because one of the most overrepresented uh, demographics of people for when it comes to abortions is Black women. But then, and so they say, okay, well, Black women, you are solely responsible for genocide of our children.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely just want to just tear my skin off every time that I hear that
Mm-hmm.
argument. It's because it's absolutely insane.
It's nonsense. It's
It's
complete
it's
nonsense.
it's absolutely I'm like, where in the world, so yeah, we got a lot of work to do, but thank you, Cindy. And I'm thinking of the Black children, and I'm glad that you're thinking of the Black children too. We,
Yes.
think of the Black children and think of other children as well. We need to teach children skepticism, critical thinking. We don't teach them what to think, we teach them how to think.
Right.
And so like when they are actually um push patriarchal sensibilities are pushed upon them, they can use their critical thinking skills in order for them to combat these things. And yeah, we're going to keep on having these conversations. So guys, make sure that you please tune in next week, and also, yeah, give it to the Black non-believers. We sure do appreciate it. And as we are wrapping up, I want to also mention that this particular channel, Skeptic Haven, not only platforms Women Atheists UNLOAD, but we also do have other shows on this particular channel. So make sure you check out Secular Soapbox on Wednesdays and Thursdays, The Sunny Spot, Saturday, The Global Atheist, and also the show Women Atheists Unload. And on Sundays, I believe it's a call-in show, which is Let's Talk on Sunday. And that's not your typical call-in show where we just like talk to theists and say, what do you believe and why? But we actually have more thoughtful conversations about a variety of topics that people just want to call in and chat about. So make sure you guys are tuning into all those shows. It really does help us out a lot. And we also want to thank our patrons for being able to support Skeptic Haven. We want to thank you, Cindy Davis Jr., Eric Ozols, Tara S., Rion, Deneen Murphy, Dan D., Michael Wiseman, Kathy Cotton, Cindy Plaza, Sunny Shell, Aaron Coalson, Phil Calderone, and Jamie West. Thank you so much for your support. And if you, dear listener and viewer, would like to become a patron of this channel, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Skeptic Haven. We may want to go ahead and put that in the banner, guys. Patreon.com/Skeptic Haven. And with that being said, guys, thank you again for tuning into Women Atheists Unload, as I got a chance to unload with my good girlfriend, Miss Mandisa Thomas.
It is always a pleasure. Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, I was like, hey, Mandisa, you want to talk about hoe culture and misogyny? She's like, yeah, when? I was like,
that's right. Just give me the date and time and I will be there.
Yeah, I'll be there. Okay, all right. We don't have the rights to that. Anywho, again, guys, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you tune in next week, turn into our other shows. And with that being said, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Bye-bye.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, 'cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the